So now back to 2018 from 2030. Time now for some policymakers speak on steel and EVs. That's what our Heaven Green Keynote 5 is going to focus on. For this keynote, please welcome on stage Dr. A S Firoz, Chief Economist, Research Unit, Ministry of Steel, Government of India. Dr. A S Firoz, known worldwide for his work on steel, iron ore, coal, and energy industries, is also well-versed with and worked extensively on petroleum, petrochemicals, aluminium, automotive industries. He completed his MA, MPhil, and PhD in economics from Jawaharlal Nehru University. He's currently the Chief Economist at the Economic Research Unit of Joint Plant Committee and advises the government on policy and development issues pertaining to steel and steel industry raw materials. As a consultant earlier, he has worked with leading organizations such as Reliance Industries, Bureau of Industrial Costs and Prices, amongst many others, on wide-ranging projects. With over 400 articles published in leading financial journals, he is also a contributor in the Economic and Political Weekly and other academic papers. He has addressed a large number of national and international academic and business conferences. Can we have a loud round of applause for him, please? Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for the generous introduction. And good afternoon, distinguished delegates. And I, in fact, come from a completely different world. Can I have this down? I said I come from a completely different world. I'm not from the automotive industry, but I'm from the steel industry. I'm not an engineer, I'm an economist. I'm not from the industry, I'm from the government. So I felt that I'm a complete misfit into the entire scenario. And, but I thought that I might as well share some of my thoughts and experiences with you, which might at some point over time may throw some insights or may provide some inputs to your thinking. And it is my interest that I am coming here to listen to you rather than to speak on a subject like this. And especially when it comes to the context of electric vehicles, there are many policy issues or thinking going on at this moment. Nothing has been concretized. It's too early to talk about government policy as far as electric vehicles are concerned, because policies are first dynamics and depends entirely on how the development takes place, how situation moves. Today we really cannot talk about an immediate policy for electric vehicles. Even for that matter, to have a policy for automotive industry, we have difficulty because it's moving so fast. And this electric vehicle business is possibly far out of sight at this moment. I come from the steel industry, and basically we are looking at a few things. One, why the automotive industry is important for the steel industry. Now, as far as steel makers are concerned, 8.8% of our steel in the country goes to the automotive industry. That's a very important chunk by quantity. And by value, it is 13%. So the automotive industry is very important for the life and growth of the steel industry. Now there is, automotive industry is not one very monolithic industry. It's not like construction industry, which take bulk of our steel, but standards have not changed for a long period of time, or there is no rapid change required, quick change required in a product that is used in the construction industry. But when it comes to automotive industry, there's constant innovations going on. If we look at the bulk of the innovations in product design and product development, most of the innovations that have taken place in recent times are related to high-strength steel and mostly to be used in passenger cars. Now, this innovations in product, it's not a one-way process. It's just not that the steel industry comes, does some R&D and comes out with a product idea and then throws it up, produces that and throws it up to the automotive industry. Look, use this product for your body panel, use this product for something else, use this product for your exhaust pipes. No. So there's a constant interaction, and I believe that innovation, product innovation starts from the user industry. User industry comes with a product. You develop an automotive, a vehicle, a design of a vehicle, a small, big, heavy, light, whatever, and which XYZ, and that decides on what kind of steel you will be requiring in terms of strength, in terms of thickness, in terms of width of the sheets that will be produced or various dimensions that will be used. Now, once that is decided upon, it takes nearly 1.5 to 2 years to actually develop a proper product. So the steel industry comes at that point of time to develop this product and delivers it. Many of the times, the auto industry is impatient, immediately goes to a foreign country, gets the product as soon as possible because it just cannot wait. But in a larger context of time, as we look at our own steel industry, we would like that this process of interaction for product development is, engagement is stronger, and these particular decisions are taken quicker, so that the steel industry, which is well prepared today to meet almost every demand of the domestic automotive industry, can actually act quickly and come back with a solution. Now let me come to the electric vehicle challenge that we have been seeing. I remember a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago maybe, the total steel that automotive industry used, especially the outer body panel, is about 30% or so of it was secured from the domestic producers. Now I believe it is nearly 80% or so, which is a big achievement, and all have come with a lot of product development efforts, and approvals have been given to companies like JSW, Tata Steel, etc. So it's a big, and that shows that the steel industry is very active and is very responsive to the demand of the automotive industry. Now coming to the electric vehicles, now my first question that comes to my mind, or the first question that I would like to ask the automotive industry is, what is your plan? How big do you think it can go through? Does it depend entirely on government policy, or it is your innovation and research that will drive this industry's future? Now some issues have been raised about the policies, government policy, whether government is proactive or not. The government must be shown a roadmap. Government must be provided with some inputs, concrete inputs, reliable inputs, and a clear vision. If the vision is clear and acceptable, then the government can think of a particular policy decision. Like fiscal, going to the government, coming to the government and ask for some fiscal incentives, because automotive industry is actually, with electric vehicles, pollution will come down. So on this ground, you should encourage electric vehicles and production, and for that you reduce GST or whatever it is, you give some incentives so that they become competitive. This is not a very, very strong, acceptable long-term fiscal policy discipline. I do not consider that providing just some fiscal solutions is all that matters. Infrastructure. Infrastructure today, before this electric vehicles, one of the things that we deal with every day is that build infrastructure, roads for the auto industry to grow. That is what the auto industry keeps coming to the government again and again and again. So you build roads, and if you build roads, if there are connectivity, better connectivity, our auto industry will grow. You say that your banks' infrastructure should be increased, improved, interest rates should be lowered so that consumer loans are available at a lower interest cost, which will make automotive demand rise. And then you'll be able to sell more. These are the kind of things that we are dealing with, but infrastructure development is related to roads and other things at this moment, what you were talking about. And the second, if you are to talk about electric vehicles, you will have to need whether there will be charging stations everywhere across the country. That is one of the infrastructure that the government can think of providing support to that, or it's a viable one. Or tomorrow the technology changes to such an extent that charging stations are not at all required. So you may be able to do something without any charging stations. So whether you have a roadmap or what is your forecast, that has to be clearly spelled out. And that kind of technology option should be provided to the government for seeking any kind of benefit. Two, when we are talking about electric vehicles, we are talking about, that shows our concern for environment. Electric, it's not that engine part is the only thing, the consumption of fuel is the only thing that we are bothered about. That is one part of it. You can reduce pollution in many different ways by improving the quality of fuel, by reducing weight, and so many things. There is not just, there are multiple factors where technology development in that entire say fuel-based current traditional vehicles, petrol or diesel vehicles. There's so many things can be done which can actually reduce environment. And environment is not also something that it has been only polluted by vehicles. Vehicular pollution is one of the many issues, many things that which actually is causing environmental pollution. So how big it is, or how you are going to handle the bulk of the environment issues emanating from the auto industry, that has to be seen. And then to what extent electric vehicles can actually change this situation, to what extent it can reduce it. What is it going in 20 years time or till 2030, is it going to actually help reduction of pollution by 20%, 30%, 50%, going by the kind of forecast that we have for electric vehicles in the country? We really don't have any. And second, you will have to also think about disposal of batteries, what you do with it. Yes, somebody has raised this issue of lithium. Whether we have lithium, we'll become ever dependent on lithium or graphite or anything that emerging material, graphene, or anything material that comes in cobalt. So many things will be coming into it. So where we will require first a strong sourcing support, stability, and then disposal of many of these things, then mining various products. So all this actually contribute to environmental degradation. So at the end of this, what we are looking at, we're not writing off the electric vehicle thing, but electric vehicles roadmap has to be developed properly, scientifically by the industry only, then only government can do. Second, is there any path-breaking technologies which can be universally accepted on a global scale? Like it cannot be that it's developed somewhere else in one place and it cannot be applied in another place. There has to be universal. Third is that as far as the steel industry is concerned, we are looking at volumes. Now, let me see, so supposing you come back and demand a different product. Let me say a high-strength steel product which will have to be specially developed for this electric vehicles. Then you might require a completely different cold rolling line. You might require a complete different batches for starting from steel production onward. You require a whole lot of new infrastructure in the steel industry itself, to produce those. So and that will require certain economies of scale. Whether the country will have that kind of a demand for steel coming from the electric vehicle, so that the steel producers are incentivized to invest. Investment in the steel industry or on critical products is not very easy. It is a very expensive matter. But however, the problem, what I'm trying to look at it, as far as the auto industry's developments are concerned, in whichever way it is, that steel industry will always be there in the upfront to support proactively any requirement of the new fresh requirement of the automotive industries. And EVs might not change the business of the steel industry as far it is concerned, but it will certainly be differently placed. I mean, their product development efforts will have to be significantly improved. Now, we have, as far as our experiences globally is concerned, it's not so much of studies have been conducted or because with electric vehicles in India, but whether it is Tesla, I think Tesla, and then there are various companies, Volkswagen and other, I think several companies tried, Audi, various companies have tried electric vehicles. And to reduce weight, they initially tried aluminum also significantly, but ultimately they have found that the best solution for them is actually steel. And if these are the signs of future developments, I'm sure the steel industry will come back to support the efforts of the automotive industry in its development of electric vehicles. And with that, I end my talk. And thank you very much for inviting me here. Thank you. Any questions? I think that. Yeah. Yeah. Any questions? Lithium is not really available in India. So no, lithium is deposits are there in China. There are lithium deposits are in Congo also and various other countries. It is in Australia also. But China has a overall control over the lithium resources in the world. Same thing with cobalt. Cobalt, they have got a full control over cobalt deposits in Congo and wherever it exists. So generally speaking, I mean, somehow we have been slow as a country, or our industrialists are slower in looking at opportunities, seeing opportunities ahead of time. And so they did not go that far to acquire those resources where they could have easily done. So lithium, yes, it will remain a constraint. And graphite also same problem. Today, because if graphite has to be used, now there's a price, this movement has already taken place for needle coke being going to graphite, going to lithium battery production, and so for electric vehicles also. So what happens is that there is a graphite electrode prices have shot up from significantly from about $1,500 to now about $20,000 in just about 2 years. So there is, one will have to see what happens to these limited resources when actually production in full-fledged come into being, whether we have sufficient mineral resources to support it. And of course, technology will be there to find out, but basic, if you were crucially dependent on lithium or any other graphite or anything, then that one will have to see how the pricing of the electric vehicles will be.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you so very much for coming over for this brilliant discussion, your talk. Though you are from the steel industry, but because you touched upon the topic of lithium and the batteries, so what are your thoughts as a person not from the automotive? What are your thoughts on the success probability of the battery swapping, which we are thinking as a country? You think that this can really be one big solution to making EVs ubiquitous, reducing the charging time, and getting it at par with the normal, regular filling time for petrol and diesel?
When I started, I said that I'm not an engineer, I'm an economist. So I won't be able to comment on the technical part of what are the technical opportunities or changes which can take place. But generally speaking, we will have to see, we'll have to ensure two things. One, whatever is required for an electric car, that those resources, basic resources have to be there, number one. Whether it is steel, whether it is lithium, whether it is something else, those are to be available within your reach. That's the first thing. Then only once your resources are there within your reach, then you can talk about technologies changes also. Now, the problem of initially what we were thinking that we will be having will require a wide range of charging stations. Some company also had announced that every 2 kilometers or 3 kilometers they will put up a charging station somewhere in Delhi, and then so that you don't never have to bother about it. In 15-20 minutes your car will be charged even if something happens. But that is range issues. I mean, whether it makes sense for somebody to have a car with 2,000 kilometer range or unlimited range, or whether you have is good enough for city driving, 100 kilometer is good enough. That's a completely different question. It was a matter of choice of the owner. So how the owner will actually see it. Now, what are the owner is not a car owner will not go. See, I am one person who will not think before he buys a petrol car or diesel car, he will not think, look, I am one of the contributors of this disaster to environment. No, he will not think that way. This is the choice available to me within this price, and these are the maintenance costs, these are the fuel, etc., etc. Those things he will bother about. The choice situation for a consumer will be completely different from the choice situation for a government who is looking at millions of people overall, taking a macro view. In the public policy is completely different from the individual choice. In the public policy, we will have to move towards a environmentally sound system. And whether these electric vehicles is a solution or not, it is at this moment, it is certainly not established. You can compare one, because you can compare one electric vehicle and a petrol vehicle. If you can make them run both, then you can say that easily you can say that this one is better than the other. But we'll have to see the overall context of the economy, where the impact will be through mining, impact will be through transfer of movement of mineral resources from one to another, production of those resources. So many things are taking place elsewhere. It is not in one factory, electric vehicle is being produced, and somewhere else mining is being done, somewhere else something is being done, and some old batteries are getting disposed. So a lot of activities are happening in the whole system at a time. So as in the public policy, we'll have to consider each aspect of it.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
So my question is, on the contrary, do you see a chance of steel demand dampening in automotive industry because of the EV revolution? Because many people are looking at lightweighting, which is one of the key aspects in automotive industry. Today, it's become more important in EVs to increase the range. So they are looking at lighter options like composites or aluminum, which some of the automotive OEMs like JLR and Tesla have already demonstrated that by reducing steel and using more of composites and aluminum. So do you see that happening, where demand for steel going down in automotive industry?
See, it's something like this. If you tell me, if I have a thinner gauge of steel or aluminum or composite material, if you give me a lighter weight, and you can also say that it is bulletproof and can take a few shots from a battle tank, so that will be a preferred choice. But that is not available. If you try to make the car lighter, you will also make it unsafe. So you have to see whether somebody is willing to, in this rush, busy hours and busy traffics everywhere, whether you are actually moving in a very light car, just, and your safety is being sacrificed, compromised. That choice, again, that's what I said, the choice is of the consumer. Ultimately, supposing you find, let me assume that is a perfectly technologically perfect solution you have brought in the form of an electric car, which has everything, but it's very light, and it hits here, the moment it hits something, it is a big dent, it goes to for a repair. There's an accident, 2 people die, so they will not.
But not compromising on the safety or performance
The government
aspects.
will not allow, because if you have a supposing crash test, I mean, I think you are all from the automotive industry. You have to get the crash test done. Many of the Indian cars fail the crash test, but that is different matter. But at least you cannot have get a government approval for a new product which has got a huge issue. Anything else? I think, thank you very much. I think there's no further question. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Dr. Firoz.